Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul just finished speaking to a big crowd of Washington voters.
He's in Vancouver, hoping to make an impact in our state just a few weeks before the March 3rd caucuses. C.R. Douglas is traveling with Paul around the state. He joins us live now in Vancouver with more on Paul's message. C.R.
Hey, Matt, Maria, this ballroom just moments ago was filled to capacity. About 1,000 people here, about 800 who were still outside, kind of turned away. They had to watch it through the wings, so to speak. It was a fervent crowd. They were excited. A lot of young people. This guy really pulls out the young crowd. I talked to a lot of them. A couple kids who actually were Obama voters from 4 years ago. This year they're for Ron Paul. I asked why. What is it? For them, it was the wars. They think Obama still is too much into wars. I asked how about social issues? Is this guy too conservative for a place like Washington? And they said, you know, we don't necessarily agree with him on abortion. We don't necessarily agree with him on same-sex marriage. But what we like about him is he believes in states' rights. He's not a crusader for either of those issues at the federal level. He wants to leave it to states. It's sort of that liberty theme they like. Now, just a few minutes ago after he spoke, I had a chance to ask him a few questions about his candidacy. You want to cut $1 trillion from the federal budget immediately. Do you risk job growth if you do that so fast, just when the recovery is getting off the ground?
I'm having an argument currently with Bernanke. He argues that it could be damaging, but I believe he doesn't have any credibility because he didn't predict the housing bubble. No, it doesn't. An example I use is we brought 10 million people home from World War II. We cut 60% of our budget, cut taxes by 30%, and we had economic growth for the first time in about 17 years. So I would say no. People think because the government's not spending the money that it would be a negative, but when the government spends the money, it's a double negative. First, they take the money from the people, then when they spend it, it's not well spent.
Interestingly, his speech here today was almost an economics lecture. I mean, he talked a lot about the Fed. He talked a lot about the history of sort of empires that went and spent, took out a lot of debt, and how they eventually fell. It got a lot of applause. There were also some legalized marijuana folks here today. They certainly like his stand on that. Interestingly enough, when this all started, the person who kind of got this going, she said, you know, whoops, we forgot to put an American flag up here on the stage, but she said, I've got a Constitution. Will that do? And everyone roared in approval. And so when they actually did the Pledge of Allegiance, they did the pledge to the Constitution. Matt and Maria, back to you guys.